Okay, good morning, everyone, and thank you for signing up to watch our webinar today. One note before we get started, we recommend that you sign in via a computer or laptop versus a phone. There are some video segments in this presentation that will only be viewable from a computer. Also, we'll take a few minutes at the end of the webinar to do a brief Q&A segment, so send in those questions if you have them. My name's Nate, and I'd like to introduce Danny and Tori. They're two of our product managers at AM Leonard. They specialize in quite a few areas of our product line, but today they're going to talk a little more specifically about the greenhouse production side of the industry. So Danny, let's start with you. Greenhouse production seems like a big topic to cover, and I'm sure we won't get to all of it here today. So where does someone start? Like, what's the first thing we need to think about, assuming we already have a location and space needed to grow?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, and really I think it depends on what you're growing and really just aiming to extend your season. And that's the whole point of installing a greenhouse. So there's a couple things you're going to have to consider, such as your structure, your weed barrier, growing media, and everything in between. And that's great thing about AM Leonard is we do have our amazing account manager program where we really guide you through every step of the process.
Cool. Okay, so let's assume we have all that covered and we're ready to go. What are some of the basic tools that a grower might need?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and really depending on your situation, what you're growing, that could vary vastly from grower to grower.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a couple staple AM Leonard tools, and we've put together a video just showing some of those basics and what we recommend when you're going into the greenhouse.
Okay.
All right, so we're here at Meadowview Growers in New Carlisle, Ohio, and I just wanted to talk about a couple different tools that you will definitely need before you go into the greenhouse, just some of our top maintenance picks. So the first one is our AM Leonard stainless steel hand shears. This is item number 3080, and they are handcrafted in Italy, made with Swedish steel, and this is an AM Leonard exclusive. Great thing about these is very compact, a little bit under 6.5 inches, about 1.5 inch blade. Just helps you get in those nice tight areas for deadheading, pruning, and those basic tasks. Another tool very closely related is our AM Leonard 1290 needle nose shear. Again, same kind of concept, but a little bit stronger blades. These are made with high carbon steel, high carbon Japanese steel. Stainless steel blade that's chrome plated for sap resistance, corrosion resistance, and helps prevent with rust. And this might be a good thing if you're doing a lot more volume cutting. That spring is going to take a lot of the load off of your wrist, off your hands. And then our last tool that you can't be caught without is our AM Leonard Deluxe soil knife. So great thing about this, comes with a 6-inch blade made of stainless steel. This is made in Italy, and again, very tough blade. It can withstand 300 pounds of pressure, and it's also got a nice molded composite handle. Gives you that perfect, ergonomic fit. Whether you're pulling weeds, digging, transplanting, this is the perfect tool. And it also comes with, we've got a depth gauge on here to help you with your planting or even with your spacing. Along with that, some other features are the twine notch over here on the side for cutting twine, bales of straw, things like that, and then a nice aggressively serrated edge for cutting open bags of soil, digging through roots, and some of those other tasks.
Okay, good information there. And I know AM Leonard offers like every kind of pruner and hand tool that you could ever need. So we've covered some of the basic tools. What's something more complicated that growers might not know?
Yeah, so I would say that's the thing that makes a greenhouse, and that's the poly grow film covering over top of it. And a lot of growers are going to just call it plastic, but really there's a lot more that goes into it than that. And we have a couple different product types of grow film just to kind of help you find the right tool for the job, depending on what you're growing or where you're growing.
All right, now that we've talked about the main tools that you're going to need when you're entering the greenhouse, let's talk about the supplies that actually make it a greenhouse. And that is the polyethylene film that covers the frames. So at A.M. Leonard, we have partnered with Vinegar Plastics out of Israel. We've been a long-time partner with them, carrying their overwinter films, as well as grow films and some other products. But today we'll just focus mainly on our grow films and choosing the right tool for the job or the crop that you're growing. So the different grow films that we carry, there is a little bit of a difference between all of them, and that comes from Vinegar's 5-layer advantage. So with their film, there are 5 different layers. So within each one of those layers, that's where you have the opportunity to put in some additives, such as standard on every film is to have an anti-dust additive on the outside. That will keep your greenhouse clean and ensure that you have a nice, even light transmission throughout the season. Other properties that could be added would be extra strength properties, which is pretty standard with Vinegar films. Something that they're very well known for is the Overwinter Plus, which is taking a lower millage of film, but creating it with higher strength properties. So those strength properties carry over into all of their films. And another additive that's always included is the UV additive. So that will give your film the stabilization for the 4-year lifespan. And all of our grow films are 4-year, 6 mil thickness films. So your entry-level film is going to be called Sun Cover. This is what, if you're just looking for plastic or just something to cover your greenhouse, the most economical option, Sun Cover is going to be your best bet. Like I said, it contains the anti-dust additive. It will also contain the UV additives for the added strength and lifespan, but that's about where it ends. So that's going to get you covered in most situations, good for about any crop. Kind of a jack-of-all-trades polyfilm. Next step up from that is called Sun Saver. So the differentiation with Sun Saver is that on the inside of the film, there's an anti-drip additive. And what this additive does is, if you've put plastic over anything that contains moisture or water, you know that there's going to be condensation that collects on that plastic. So what the anti-drip additive does is it forces the water, or it reduces the surface tension of the water, causes it to roll to the sides and then into the gutter. So what the benefits of that would be is you're not going to have water dripping on your plants, and essentially that's going to reduce your pest, disease, fungal pressures, things like that. So another added benefit of the Sun Saver film is the infrared additive that will help you retain heat throughout the colder months and just ensure that you have a more even, stable nighttime temperature in your greenhouse. Next step up from Sun Saver would be our Sun Saver Diffused. So it's got all the same additives as Sun Saver with a little bit of a difference, and that is the diffusion. So regular Sun Cover, regular Sun Saver is a clear film, which means that when the light goes through it, it's just direct sunlight, just like growing outdoors or anything else. But the difference with Sun Saver Diffused is how that light gets scattered once it hits the film and disperses from there. So it's very similar to like a watering can. If you take the rose off the end of it, you have a direct stream of water. That would be the standard film like Sun Cover or Sun Saver. And if you put that rose back on the end of the watering can, you get that nice dispersion, and that's the same effect that Sun Saver Diffused will have on the light. Some of the reasons you would want to use that is if you've got hanging baskets in your greenhouse. Everyone has structural components that are going to block some light, and basically what that will do is reduce the shadowing and increase the light surface area. So perfect, like I said, perfect for hanging baskets, if you do have a lot of infrastructure, or if you're growing high canopy crops such as tomatoes or cucumbers or anything that's vining. Another thing about the grow films that can really kind of lend itself to more than just the light and creating the greenhouse environment is actually the effect that it could have on the environment, on the temperature, humidity, etc. So with SunSaver diffused, because it's not having a bunch of direct light coming in, that light is scattered, it's really reducing, it's helping to reduce the heat because there's not so much direct radiation entering your greenhouse. And on the flip side of things, you can also double layer greenhouse film in order to insulate against cold weather, and basically that's a very passive way of controlling the environment in your greenhouse. So vinegar films are a great solution whether you were growing ornamentals, flowers, hanging baskets, or anything. We've got the solution for you depending on your crop.
Okay, so you're using poly to diffuse lighting, regulate temperatures, and essentially trap heat into the structure. So I imagine you still need to manage that heat somehow.
Yeah, that's very true. And we do have a lot of solutions for managing heat, kind of keeping that air circulating. And that's a really important fact, just to keep the disease pressures and fungal pressures off your plants and just encourage stronger growth. So we've pulled together a few more examples to illustrate this a little bit better on the different ventilation options we offer.
All right, so another important factor to take into account when you're in the greenhouse is your ventilation and environmental controls options. So, as moisture will collect on the roof of the greenhouses, it'll also collect on the surface of the plants, and that's something that we don't necessarily want because it will lead to disease, fungal, bacterial pressures. So a way to mitigate that is to have a vast array of fans. So here we've got a horizontal airflow fan. That's just going to keep the air circulating around the greenhouse. And you can see, as it goes around, fans on this side of the greenhouse are going, let's say, north. Fans on this side of the greenhouse are going south. And that ensures that we've got a nice continuous rotation of air, heat, humidity.
In addition to horizontal airflow fans, another important aspect of controlling your greenhouse environment will be the addition of vertical flow fans. We carry V-flow fans from Fosterman's, and like I said, it's a great complement to horizontal fans because of the vertical airflow, but the design of this vertical flow fan also optimizes the vertical flow through a special aerodynamic outlet. This creates uniform air quality and distribution through vertical and horizontal airflow, saves energy by utilizing the heat at the top of the greenhouse and due to the efficiency of the fans, reduces the number of fans needed per greenhouse. One of these fans covers a surface area of about 2,690 square feet. And a really nice feature about this fan is that it controls humidity at a crop level with low air speeds of 0.07 miles per hour. This is important just because it's not going to harm your plants, but still allows for the control of that microclimate. This is applicable with various crops, management systems, and cultivation methods. Can be retrofit into almost any application. Another way that you can regulate the environment in your greenhouse is with the addition of convection tubing. So convection tubing is very similar to grow film. It's made out of the same material, polyethylene. What we carry is a 4 mil thickness polyethylene tube with a high clarity and UV inhibitors to reduce the degradation of these tubes. According to the supplier, they're guaranteed for 1 year but could last up to 2 seasons if handled correctly. And so there's a wide variety of punch styles and options available for convection tubing, but it'll ultimately depend on your usage and your needs. So a few qualities of the product is that it's easy to install, allows uniform dispersion of heat or cool air, provides gentle, steady streams of air, promotes a healthier air mix, eliminates stale air pockets, and helps to reduce humidity. Uses for convection tubing could be for simple ventilation, air movement, HVAC, and just creating a more controlled environment in the greenhouse, and it's also used under benches and used to inject CO2, carbon dioxide, into your crops, especially if you're growing something that is a flowering, fruiting, or even cannabis crop.
All right, Danny. So we've covered some basic tools, poly, ventilation, and I know you probably could talk for hours about each one of those, but is there maybe like one more big thing that we should talk about?
Yeah, and you might have noticed in the last video some of the supplemental lighting that was in the background. Supplemental lighting is huge for growers, especially if you're growing like a flowering crop. But so wanted to dive into just kind of some of the different lights that we offer. So we've created one last video here to show the different LED options that we offer from Total Grow.
While poly helps control the lighting in the greenhouse, helps create that ideal environment, there's also a lot left to be desired with the quality of light that we receive, especially if we're growing in the northern hemisphere. So typically when we think about grow lights, we usually attach them to a few types of specialty growers such as cannabis or vertical farming. And these growers may use grow lights as a sole source of light, but the truth of the matter is that almost every grower can benefit from adding supplemental lighting into their growing operations, especially if you're growing long day plants such as calendula, dianthus, or petunias. These plants require more than 12 hours of light, up to 18 hours of light, and if you're a grower in the northern area of the country, you'll need supplemental lighting to bring your crops to flower early in the spring. Here at AM Leonard, we've partnered with Total Grow Lighting and carry all of their LED lighting solutions. So here we'll run through some of the basics, and it's important to note that as a grower you may know exactly what you need from a grow light or from supplemental or sole source lighting, but that's where we come in, and here at AM Leonard we can kind of help you find the right tool for the job by pairing you with one of our great account managers who has knowledge on the subject, and we also work with industry experts to develop a personalized lighting plan for you. So going through top products we carry from Total Grow, first one is the Total Grow Pure Flowering 200 lamp. This is a 16-watt light that has a 30,000 hour lifespan, and it'll cover 200 square feet of the greenhouse, hence the name Pure Flowering 200. The Pure Flowering light provides the perfect balance of red and far red light spectrum, which will promote stem elongation and help with strong flower and bud formation. One of my other favorites from Total Grow is their Stratum light bars. This is a nice 40-watt light. It's got a low pull of energy. It's 44 inches long, 5 inches wide, and just a little over an inch in height. So these are perfect for propagation areas, vertical farming, or just growing in tight spaces. I use them for my seed starting, and I know that they're perfect with that low profile. So Stratum grow lights are going to offer a 50,000 hour lifespan, and it comes with a 5-year warranty. Another important fact to note here about the Stratum lights is that they have a little bit different light spectrum than the Pure Flowering lights. While the Pure Flowering is heavy on the red and far red spectrum of the light area, the Stratums and the other lights that we'll talk about are broad spectrum LEDs, meaning they have a good mixture of blues, greens, yellows, red, and far red for an optimal growing environment for your plants. Next, we'll move on to the Total Grow multi-LED grow lights. These are very similar to the Stratum lights in their structure at the very least, but they have a lot more power. So on the low end, we have 170-watt lights with the option of 240, 320, or 640 watt. Plus, we also have a high output option available for even more efficiency and power. As I said, very similar to the Stratum, but it has a much more powerful output. As with the Stratum, it has a 50,000 hour lifespan, and these can be used as sole source or supplemental lighting depending on the crop and your situation, and again, we can help you out with that. Okay, moving on to the last one, it is the Total Grow high intensity LED top lights. Just as with the multi-LED grow light bars, We have a standard and a high output option for even more efficiency and power. These have a 58,000 hour lifespan, broad spectrum LED, and can be used as sole source or supplemental. So these are by far the most powerful, most efficient models we offer, and probably the best fit for the widest range of applications. But if you're looking to up your lighting game or just have questions, you can always call in to our knowledgeable account managers, or we can get you set up with some of our supplier experts who can give you a free customized lighting plan fit for your growing situation.
Okay, Tori, so we've covered some of the basic products of a growing operation with Danny. You've got a little more complicated subject to discuss, but a very important subject because it deals with pests, which I imagine can literally destroy profits if they're left out of hand.
Yes, that is very true. Pest management is really key to maintaining profits. And especially as more and more growers are looking for organic growing methods, it can become an even more complicated subject. So what I did was make a video that breaks down each of the components of integrated pest management and then provided some of A.M. Leonard's solutions within those components.
IPM is essentially a toolbox with 4 types of tools: biological, chemical, cultural, and mechanical control tactics. What tools you use will depend on your circumstance. IPM is a dynamic approach to pest control, looking differently for different locations, crops, and time of year. Typically, the first step in an IPM program, and the most common form of mechanical control in an IPM program, is the use of yellow and blue sticky cards. A.M. Leonard has their own sticky trap that is yellow on one side and blue on the other. This sticky card is placed at the crop height throughout the greenhouse to trap and monitor pest populations. The reason the card is yellow on one side and blue on the other is because different pests are attracted to different colors. The blue side is usually used to attract thrips, which are a common pest in greenhouse ornamental crops. The yellow side traps other pests such as aphids, fungus gnats, shore flies, and many more. Proper treatment of a pest requires the correct diagnosis. We have a microscope that can clip onto most smartphones that has a 60-time magnification. Insect netting such as Protect Net is a knitted fabric with a mesh hole size of 0.35 millimeters by 0.35 millimeters. This net acts as an insect screen, just like a screen door to your house, to keep out even the smallest insect pests such as thrips. The next IPM tool is cultural control. This is the IPM tool that the grower has the most control over. Simply put, it is the things we do to modify the environment in which a pest lives. Upgrading to Sunsaver Poly for the added anti-drip benefit, which works by changing the surface tension of water droplets, condensing on the poly film, making it roll down the sides of the poly instead of falling onto the leaves of your crop. The reason why this is important is because many fungi and bacteria that cause plant diseases require water on the plant before they can infect the plant. Using the right poly, such as Sunsaver on your greenhouse, reduces the occurrence of leaf wetness in the morning, which in turn reduces the occurrence of fungi and bacteria infecting the plant, reducing the amount of chemical applications and saving you money. Because weeds can be a host to diseases and insects, an example of a common pest that feeds on a weed is whiteflies and velvet leaf or buttonweed. You will often see these outdoors in July and August when the weeds become established in landscapes. If you were to pull that weed, there is a good chance you would notice whiteflies flying off of the plant. This is a perfect example as to why you want to eliminate these weeds that are a host to other pests. Weeds, dead or alive, can also serve as protection for disease pathogens to overwinter. Then, the next year when you go to plant, the pathogen can infect your new crop. Proper removal of debris in and around your greenhouses can drastically reduce the chance of these problems arising. The third tool in the IPM toolbox is biological control. For this tool, think pest versus pest. This includes biological predators, parasitoids, and microbes that are natural enemies to a specific pest. A.M. Leonard is now a nationwide distributor of BioBee biological systems, offering 20 species of biological control agents that target aphids, whitefly, fungus gnat, thrips, spider mite, mealybug, cutworms, codling moss, flea beetles, grubs, black-vine weevil, and more. Your account manager can make ordering the biologicals on a consistent basis a breeze. The final tool in the IPM toolbox is chemical control. This is often turned to after a threshold in pest populations has been reached. Sometimes this threshold is 1, and other times this could be infinite if you're nearing a killing frost. A.M. Leonard offers more than 250 insecticides, fungicides, and herbicides in various formulations and modes of action. We have both organic and non-organic pesticides available for different pests. For greenhouse insect control, a handful of our most popular products are Leonard Plant Protect Insecticide plus Fungicide, Leonard Bio-Target Slug and Snail, Marone Bio-Innovations Grandivo and Venerate, Rango Biopesticide. Leonard Plant Protect Insecticide plus Fungicide offers 2 active ingredients that work to protect your plants from insects, mites, and diseases. The active ingredient sulfur protects the plant from being infected by diseases by preventing the spores of the disease from germinating. The second active ingredient, pyrethrins, is derived from the chrysanthemum plant. When consumed by an insect, it binds to its sodium channel and prevents nerve function. Slugs can be a huge problem in a greenhouse environment that is warm and wet. BioTarget offers 2 active ingredients, iron phosphate and spinosad, for a 2-step control of earwigs, cutworms, snails, slugs, ants, and more. Spinosad is a natural substance derived from a soil bacterium that is toxic to insects. A rum distillery in the Caribbean originally discovered this bacterium, which is now widely used in organic agriculture. Iron phosphate is another organic insecticide and is a compound consisting of phosphorus and oxygen with iron. Grandivo is a 3-in-1 product containing a non-living bacterial insecticide called Chromobacterium, which is toxic to insects and mites when it is ingested. This unique product attacks insects and mites through multiple modes of action, unlike traditional insecticides. This makes this product ideal for growers who are looking to manage insect resistance. Venerate is often used in rotation with Grandivo. Venerate is made from killed cells of Burkholderia species and spent fermentation. This bacteria strain is toxic when ingested and interferes with insect molding and breaks down the insect exoskeleton, which is why Venerate is used in conjunction with Grandivo in an effort to reduce insect resistance. Rango Biopesticide is made from 100% pure cold-pressed neem oil. You may be wondering what makes Rango different than other neem-based pesticides on the market. Neem oil is derived from the neem tree and contains more than 150 bioactive compounds, some of which have anti-pesticidal properties. Of the most common is azadirachtin, which is popular and usually a higher-priced pesticide used in organic agriculture. After these sought-out bioactive compounds are extracted, you're left with a less effective hydrophobic extract of neem oil, whereas Rango is made from 100% pure form of neem oil and includes the 150-plus compounds like azadirachtin. For greenhouse disease control, we have a huge variety of products available in different formulations and modes of action. Some of our best-selling products include Leonard Disease Shield Copper Soap, Actinovate, Regalia, and Prestop. Leonard Disease Shield Copper Soap contains the active ingredient copper, which is a natural disease control method. Copper ions prevent disease pathogens from growing, continually protecting your crops. Once applied, Disease Shield begins releasing these ions. Water from rain or garden hose activates residual soap and continues to protect your plants from disease long after it was first applied. Actinovate is a high concentration of a patented beneficial bacterium in a 100% water-soluble formulation. One of the most unique qualities of Actinovate is that it is labeled for use by a sprayer, sprinkler chemigation, drip chemigation, and as a soil drench. As a powerful spray, it controls and suppresses foliar diseases including powdery and downy mildew, botrytis, alternaria, and more. Actinovate contains the microorganism Streptomyces, and when introduced into the soil, this microbe colonizes and grows around the root system of plants. As it settles into the root's rhizosphere, a synergy occurs so that the microbe feeds from the plant's waste materials while secreting beneficial and protective byproducts. The combination of the colonization and the protective secretions forms a defensive barrier around the plant's root system that in turn suppresses and controls soil pathogens. Regalia is an advanced organic biofungicide. Its active ingredient, Rhinotria sacchalensis, is an extract from the giant knotweed. Regalia activates a plant's natural defenses against a variety of fungal and bacterial pathogens. It is effective against both soil-borne and foliar pathogens. This product's complex mode of action makes it difficult for pathogens to develop resistance while minimizing chemical residue. It works in 3 ways. First, by inhibiting pathogen growth, by improving the plant's immune system, by inducing phytoalexins, and the activity of PR proteins. It also resists plant pathogen attack by increasing lignin production, which is the building block for cell walls. And third, it promotes plant growth by stimulating chlorophyll production. Prestop is a biofungicide that contains a naturally occurring fungus called Gliocladium catenulatium, which has multiple modes of action to protect your crops. It works by producing chitinase and glucanase enzymes that break down pathogenic cell walls, weakening them and allowing parasitization.
Okay, guys, thank you to everyone that signed up to watch today, and big thanks to Meadowview Growers in New Carlisle for allowing us to film inside their facility, and to GIE for hosting. Keep an eye out for our next video where we're going to talk about hardscaping, and don't hesitate to call AM Leonard for all your horticultural needs. So we're going to open it up to questions now, if anybody has any.
All right, this is Matt McClellan from GIE Media Nursery Management, and I have a few questions. I've been monitoring them as they come in, and if anyone does have any other questions, you can use that GoToWebinar that toolbox there to send those in. Question number 1 here. I see a lot of different options in your catalog for polyfilm. What is the difference between them?
All right, so the biggest difference between them is basically what additives are in the film. And so when we're talking about additives, basically that'll give those films different properties. So with our sun cover is the product name, and that is like our base film. So basically it's going to offer some UV protection, has 4-year lifespan, 6 mil, and that's pretty much where it ends. So that is your just plastic. Beyond that, you have Sun Saver, which is going to include a couple different additives. So it's going to include the infrared additive, which helps hold in heat in the greenhouse at night. Just increases your efficiency, basically, allows you to use less heating and capture more of the sun's energy. Another effect that it has is an anti-drip property on the inside of the film. So what that does is water is going to condense on plastic. Anyone who's seen plastic, like a plastic water bottle, water condenses on it. So with the anti-drip film, that allows the water to roll to the sides rather than dripping on your plants, and so that reduces your disease, fungal pressures. And then beyond that, the last one that we had discussed in the film, or in our webinar today, was the Sun Saver Diffused. So it's got all of the properties of the infrared, the anti-drip, and then rather than it just being a clear film allowing direct rays of light, it's got diffusion in there, so that's going to break up the light. Really good if you have hanging baskets or a high canopy crop, and just allows the light to kind of reach more surface area of the plants.
Excellent. All right. Here's another one. This is regarding something that was earlier in the webinar. What was that microscope for the smartphone?
It is a clip-on microscope, so it literally just clips on to any sort of iPhone or smartphone device, and it magnifies the camera on your phone by 60 times, and so you can use your phone to use it to identify a pest in the greenhouse.
Yeah, they can be found at amleo.com.
And another really good thing about that too is that a lot of growers have told us that that's a great tool, especially if they don't have, they can just take a picture of that pest, send it off to their extension agency rather than waiting for someone to come around or just Googling stuff. So it's a really good way to get instant answers for you.
Excellent. Okay. Here's another one regarding the supplemental lighting during germination. Should I use the proper spectrum LED or HPS for a greenhouse?
So if you're talking about seed starting, really, obviously it's going to depend on what your infrastructure is, maybe the size of your greenhouse as well, because if you do have HPS already set up, it might make more sense to use that sort of lighting instead of LED. The good thing about the LED is that it's got a much more, the spectrum of light is much more tailored towards a more complete growth. So if you look at the light spectrum of an HPS light, you're going to see a very high arc in the yellow, orange area, even red area of light, but it's going to have very low levels of blue, which helps produce a little bit more compact plant. Kind of helps with just the morphological response of the plants as well. So if you're looking for a complete, a very complete light, you're definitely going to want to go with LED. And you also have a lot less chance of burning it up because HPS does give off a lot of heat. So LED, you can have them within a couple inches of the plant, whereas HPS, you're going to have them much higher. And then you're also using a lot more energy, a lot more heat, and it's just very inefficient for seed starting.
Okay, here's another one. How can I tell which fertilizer is best for my specific application?
So that's a great question. And without the proper context, it's very hard to tell. I know that a lot of people, obviously it's going to depend on what you're growing, where you're growing it, kind of what your methods are as well. Because if you're using an organic growing method, maybe you're not going to want to use some of the traditional water soluble fertilizers. So we could help point you in the right direction. But as far as typical greenhouse growing, I think that a lot of people are fertigating, meaning that they're putting their fertilizer in with their irrigation lines. So water soluble probably is your best bet. But along with that, you're going to want to do a water test. And if you're growing in the ground, you're going to want to do a soil test. And really, those are the things that you're going to want to use to inform your fertilizer decisions.
Okay, here's another question come in. What do you recommend to clean your tools, knives, pruners, shears?
I'm guessing to keep them bacteria free or something in the grow house.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And we do have a couple different cleaning solutions that we offer. So I don't have like the product numbers or anything right offhand, but I believe that it's a solution from ARS, and it's which is a very great, a really good pruner that we offer, but basically is a solution to spray on your tools. And we can follow up with better information on this too. I think that that's maybe not necessarily like in my product category, but we do offer some cleaners for that. And it's important to take stock of your tools, at the end of every day, before you go into the greenhouse, and just making sure that everything is sanitized very well, just to prevent that spread of disease or anything.
Right, and they can always live chat in with us, right, over the internet. Yep. And our sales team always can look up this stuff more specifically and help out with that.
Okay, got one more question, and it is, I'm a beginner and I see numbers on fertilizers like 20/10/10. What do these mean?
All right, so those numbers are going to tell you the percentage of the solution that is so the three numbers, let's say it's 10/10/10, that it stands for nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus. And basically those numbers are going to tell you what percentage of the solution is each one of those concentrations. So 10% nitrogen, 10% potassium, 10% phosphorus.
So that would be based on the plant you're trying to grow. If a certain plant wants more phosphorus or something, you would want a higher number.
Exactly. And that kind of goes back to the original question that we had about testing your water, testing your soil. A lot of those things are really going to inform how you're going to fertilize. I know that a lot of growers, a lot of gardeners really don't test their test their soil. They kind of just say, okay, well, it's bloom, we're going to use a 10/30/20. But that's not always the best case, the best way to do things. There are certain guidelines that you could follow like that, but your best bet is to get those tests to determine, that you're not over purchasing or over fertilizing your plants. So really important for the overall health.
And testing is something we didn't get to with this webinar, but we plan to in the future. It's just it's a pretty broad topic and a lot of tools for that. So that's something we'll cover later.
Great. Okay, one more question actually just came in while you guys were answering that one. And this is a follow-up on cleaning. What method does a commercial greenhouse use to clean out the fertigation piping?
Yes, that's a good question.
There's a couple of different solutions. So if I assume they're talking about fertigating, if they're running it through sort of any irrigation equipment, we have a product called Biofilm Buster, and that breaks down the biofilm, and it's actually a more organic or natural product too. It does it naturally, and that can be ran through their fertigation system throughout all of their irrigation on all their crops, and it won't harm your plants. And then we also have another product that we just added called Sanidate, which is another more natural and a lighter and a greener disinfectant. And what's really great about that is you can use it to run through your fertigation, through your irrigation. You can also use it to wash your pots, your tools and your pruners. You could use it on your benches, the floor, even the covering on the greenhouse. It won't harm any porous or non-porous surfaces. And that product number is SANI, SANI25G, and that can be found on amleo.com.
Cool.
All right, that's all of the questions. Great job, guys.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching.